blessed to have tonight an amazing performer. I'm talking about a governor who knows how to play one of them their guitars or something. And he's from Arkansas, but he's on our side, just to give you understand. I'm talking about someone who understands the Word of God like a preacher, because he was a preacher. And someone from, I believe it was from 1996 to 2007, was the governor of Arkansas, and in 2005 was one of the best, voted one of the best public servants in all of America. Y'all help me welcome to the stage Governor Mike Huckabee, who might be the next president of the United States. God bless you. Well, let's get to the first question. And what we've done is we've certainly provided, as you guys and gals registered to come out tonight, we gave you an opportunity to ask questions, and many of you have asked questions. What we've tried to do is to take all the questions and to build them into one important question that would cover multiple questions at the same time. And we gave credit to one person, though many may have asked a very similar question. The first question, however, did not fall in that bucket. The first question was a very unique question, a specific question, so I wanted to cover that first. And I'll call your name out, and Trey will call your name out, and if you're present, if you would just stand up so that the audience will know that those who submitted questions, they're your questions and not our questions. But if we have enough time, we might get to our questions too. The first question is, where do you really stand on the ethanol mandate and why? As part of the energy conversation, it's become a more and more important part of that conversation. So I'd love to hear your answer on ethanol mandate.
Let me talk about the big picture of energy. America should not be importing one iota of energy. We ought to be an exporter. We've got 600 to 700 years of energy under our feet in this country. We have oil, we have gas, we have coal, we have wind, we have solar, we have nuclear, we have hydro, we have biofuels. All of these are available sources of energy. We ought to be exploring and exploiting every single one of them for two reasons. One is to build the economy of America, to make it first. I don't want to make the Chinese rich. I don't want to make the Russians, the Iranians, or the Saudis rich. They've had our energy money too long.
Your experiences in the executive branch, there are other candidates whose background and experiences are in the legislative branch. Obviously not asking you to say anything negative about anyone else, nor would you if I did ask, but compare and contrast your background in the executive branch versus those whose background are in the other branches, and also if you were to be the chief executive and there's tension between the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch, how would you reconcile that tension given your background in the executive branch?
The executive branch is an important preparation because there are checks and balances of each of the three. And I think that's what the Congressman was alluding to. How do we make this work? Well, first of all, one of the failures of President Obama is that he never understood the nature of the executive branch, having never done it before. We cannot afford to put somebody else in that job who has never sat in the seat of running something. And I think running a business, which I've run businesses, and that's great experience. I'm glad I've had the experience of signing the front of a paycheck. And I don't think anybody ought to be president who hasn't had that experience in business, because it's a very valuable lesson in the regulatory overreach of this nation. But I also have learned this, that running a business is very different than being the executive of a government, because in business I could just fire people. I told them what they had to do and they had to do it or they got fired. In government, I worked with the most hostile legislature in America. My legislature was more partisan and bluer than Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, Oregon, or California. My House was 89 Democrats to 11 Republicans. My Senate was 31 Democrats to 4 Republicans. Far more lopsided than anybody in the country ever worked with, at least in the 90s and up until now. Here's what I learned. I learned how to govern. I learned how to meet with people, understand them. The real work of governing is not what you do on the stage and the spotlights. It's what you do quietly behind the scenes, building relationships, getting to know people, and actually invoking the verse in Isaiah, "Come, let us reason together."
Many of us question how involved the federal government should be in state education and local education. Dave's question was specifically your position on that issue. In addition, specifically on school choice. What is the federal government's role in education, And what's your position as it relates to school choice?
It's a simple one. There is no federal role in education.
Pretty short question. Do you support a balanced budget?
I would support a balanced budget amendment. I had to work under a balanced budget as a governor. I didn't get to spend more money than we had. Neither do you and your families, and in your businesses you don't get to do it. And I think the federal government ought to operate with the same rules that the rest of America has to operate under, whether it's public or private. When we talk about ISIS, ISIS is one branch of a bigger tree of radical Islamic jihadism where savage people really, instead of wanting to get us to the 22nd century, want to take us back to the 7th. And the fact is they're not interested in negotiating, they're not interested in sitting down and having a nice talk and coming to agreement. They're interested in killing us. That's what they're interested in. And the only way we win is to have a military that is so strong, so awesome, so overwhelmingly powerful. And I believe that the best way to keep your sons and daughters and your grandsons and your granddaughters from going to war is to have a military that is so absolutely, utterly, irresistibly powerful that nobody on earth wants to mess with it. And if they do, they're going to find themselves on their rear ends, not in 10 years or 10 months, but in about 10 days when they find out what the fierce force of the United States government can be.